Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital Today channel. Martin threatens Ronnie with jail, Carly arranges Valentine's prison transfer. Martin Gray threatened Veronica Ronnie barred with jail time. Carly Spencer also arranged Valentine Cassidy's, so here's how all Tuesday's drama went down. At Jordan Ashford's place, she revealed that Portia Robinson's pregnancy was the reason she couldn't be with Curtis Ashford. Curtis thanked Jordan for breaking the news about the baby and dashed off to find Portia after she explained how she connected the dots. At Isaiah Gannon's cabin, he handed Portia a glass of wine and left her looking uncomfortable. Isaiah and Portia landed in bed together, but he got called to the hospital and left the cabin key with her while she waited on him. Once Isaiah made it to GH, Curtis ran into the dock while he was there on his Portia search. In Anna Devane's office, Jack Brennan said her request to visit Valentine Cassidy had been denied. Anna still wanted to team up with Brennan, but lack of trust was still a problem for him. That said, Brennan did offer up a little info from Valentine since this was indeed a Faison-related project and there was a connection to Jen Sidwell. At the Metro Court, Jason Morgan confronted Carly since she'd been avoiding him. Carly downplayed that idea before facing Jason's questions about why she hadn't spilled anything to Jocelyn Jacks or Brennan. After Carly pointed out that Jason told her not to, he was skeptical that Carly would actually listen to him. In the end, Carly said that Joss wouldn't listen to her either and said that she would just drive her daughter away. As for Jack, Carly basically argued that making Jack think they still had a happy relationship would protect Jocelyn, but Jason worried Brennan could find out he was getting played. Once Brennan appeared and noticed the tension, Jason took off. Carly admitted that Jason was still talking to her about her boyfriend when Brennan questioned her. Jack fished to find out if Jason had told Carly anything specific, but she acted like he hadn't. Talk turned to Lulu Spencer not letting Charlotte Cassidy have any more visits with Valentine. Carly claimed it was because the Switzerland trips were too far and would be disruptive to Charlotte's life. However, Carly suggested there was an easy fix that would allow more Charlotte visits so Brennan could pry more info out of Valentine. All Brennan had to do was get Valentine transferred to a WSB prison closer to home. Meanwhile, Jason showed up in Anna's office and insisted they had to get Jocelyn out of the WSB. Anna didn't think that was a possibility, but she did think they might try to make sure Jocelyn worked for someone else who wouldn't send her on such risky missions. Anna also gave Jason updates on what she'd learned from Brennan about Sidwell's link to Faison's project. Back at the Metro Court, Ned Quartermaine and Olivia Quartermaine talked to Tracy Quartermaine about making peace with Ronnie, but Tracy refused at first. Nevertheless, Ned convinced Tracy that she should at least pretend to make peace so she could get back under the Quartermaine roof. Jacinda Bracken was taken to Crimson before Michael Corinthos joined the table and agreed. Jacinda was concerned about going to Nina Reeves for a job because Nina had paid for Drew Kane's drugging. In Nina's office, Ava Jerome warned her not to do anything else that might make matters worse for Willow Tate. Once Michael entered, he suggested he'd found Nina a new assistant. Jacinda stepped forward, so Nina flipped out and shut down the idea. Michael argued with Nina, but Ava piped up to play referee and got Nina to calm down. Nina agreed Jacinda could have the job and started barking orders to her. In a moment alone with Jacinda, Nina wondered how much Michael was paying her to be his alibi. As Nina reached for her checkbook, she made it clear that she was a very wealthy woman and was ready to pay Jacinda off. At the cabin again, Portia got Ava on the phone and asked where she was. Ava said she was at the Metro Court, so Portia decided to go see her there. At the Quartermaine mansion, Martin felt confident he could change Ronnie's mind about selling the house to Drew. Once Martin was alone with Ronnie in the living room, she snapped at him since someone could discover their alliance. Martin insisted he had a legitimate reason for being there on behalf of his client. Ronnie bickered with Martin, who said she'd still be waiting tables if he hadn't changed Monica Quartermaine's will. Although Ronnie hadn't been receptive to the idea at first, she had called Martin back to move forward with the plan after meeting Awful Tracy. Even so, Ronnie didn't want to sell the house to Drew and felt all this had gone too far. Martin argued that he kept his own hands clean, so Ronnie was the one who could end up in prison for fraud. After Martin reiterated that Ronnie needed to sell the mansion to Drew, he was gone by the time Michael, Ned, Olivia, and Tracy arrived. Once Tracy pretended she was ready to make peace, Ronnie backed her up on the idea of everyone needing a fresh start. After Ronnie admitted she was selling the house, that announcement sent shockwaves. Martin Gray's ruthless threat toward Veronica, Ronnie Bard, and Carly Spencer's bold arrangement for Valentine Cassidy's prison transfer setting the tone for the chaos that followed. At the start of the episode, the emotional atmosphere was already heavy at Jordan Ashford's apartment. Jordan opened up to Curtis Ashford about the real reason she had distanced herself, Portia Robinson's pregnancy. The revelation stunned Curtis, who was both grateful and heartbroken as he pieced together the truth. Jordan admitted that she had connected the dots after noticing Portia's unusual behavior, and Curtis, moved by her honesty, immediately rushed off to find Portia and get answers straight from her. Meanwhile, at Isaiah Gannon's secluded cabin, tension simmered beneath an uneasy calm. Isaiah poured Portia a glass of wine, trying to set a relaxed mood, but Portia appeared visibly uncomfortable, torn between guilt and temptation. Eventually, one thing led to another, and the two wound up in bed together. However, fate intervened when Isaiah received a sudden emergency call from the hospital, forcing him to leave abruptly. Before leaving, he handed Portia the cabin key, asking her to stay put until his return, a decision that would later complicate everything. At General Hospital, Curtis arrived just as Isaiah returned for his shift. Their paths crossed unexpectedly, and Curtis' face darkened with realization as his search for Portia became intertwined with his suspicions about Isaiah. Their exchange was civil on the surface, but the tension beneath was impossible to ignore, a confrontation that hinted at explosive fallout ahead. Elsewhere, in the world of high-stakes espionage and moral ambiguity, Anna Devane faced another challenge in her relentless pursuit of answers. In her office, Jack Brennan informed her that her request to visit Valentine Cassidy had been denied. Anna, ever the strategist, tried to persuade Brennan to work with her despite their fractured trust. While Brennan remained cautious, he did drop a breadcrumb of valuable intel, a clue linking Valentine's situation to Caesar Faison and a mysterious figure named Jen Sidwell. That connection promised to unravel a larger conspiracy that could shake the WSB to its core. At the Metro Court, Carly Spencer found herself face-to-face with Jason Morgan after avoiding him for days. Jason, never one to mince words, confronted Carly about her secrecy, particularly her silence toward Jocelyn Jacks and Jack Brennan. Carly argued that she had merely followed Jason's earlier advice to stay quiet, but Jason doubted her sudden willingness to obey orders. Carly defended her actions, claiming that she was only trying to protect Jocelyn from getting dragged deeper into WSB business. She reasoned that pretending to maintain a happy front with Brennan would shield her daughter, even if it meant living a lie. Jason, however, saw through her logic and worried that Brennan might soon uncover her deception. When Brennan appeared, the air between them thickened with suspicion. Jason made a quick exit, leaving Carly to face Brennan's probing questions alone. Brennan, ever the interrogator, subtly grilled Carly about her conversation with Jason, trying to discern whether any sensitive information had changed hands. Carly deflected skillfully, feigning ignorance while projecting confidence. She then deftly shifted the topic to Valentine Cassidy's daughter, Charlotte, and how Lulu Spencer had cut off visits due to travel difficulties. Carly proposed a cunning solution: if Brennan arranged for Valentine to be transferred to a WSB facility closer to home, it would be easier for Charlotte to visit. Brennan didn't realize that Carly's true motive was to gain better access to Valentine herself, but her persuasive reasoning convinced him to consider the idea. Meanwhile, Jason returned to Anna's office to share his mounting concerns. He urged Anna to help him extract Jocelyn from the WSB entirely, fearing that her missions were growing too dangerous. Anna, though sympathetic, explained that removal wasn't an option. Instead, she suggested a compromise, assigning Jocelyn under a different supervisor to minimize the risk. Their conversation then shifted to the intelligence Brennan had shared about Jen Sidwell's involvement in Faison's projects. Together, Anna and Jason began piecing together a network of connections that hinted at a shadowy organization still operating within the WSB's ranks. Back at the Metro Court, family drama took center stage as Ned and Olivia Quartermain attempted to mediate a long-brewing feud. They urged Tracy Quartermaine to make peace with Ronnie Bard for the sake of family unity, but Tracy initially refused, too prideful to extend an olive branch. Ned, ever the diplomat, managed to persuade her to at least pretend to make peace, a tactical move that would allow her to regain access to the family estate and regain control of Quartermaine affairs. Soon after, Michael Corinthos joined the table, having just come from an intense meeting at Crimson. Earlier that day, Michael had brought Jacinda Bracken to Nina Reeves' office, pitching her as Nina's new assistant. Jacinda was hesitant from the start, knowing Nina's history, particularly her role in Drew Kane's drugging. Nina's reaction was explosive. She lashed out, accusing Michael of ulterior motives. Ava Jerome stepped in to calm things down, reminding Nina that alienating everyone around her would only make things worse for Willow Tate. Eventually, Nina relented and gave Jacinda the job, though her trust remained non-existent. When alone with Jacinda, Nina revealed her true colors. She accused Jacinda of being a paid spy for Michael and even offered to buy her loyalty outright, flaunting her wealth to maintain control. Back at the cabin, Portia couldn't bear the guilt gnawing at her conscience. She phoned Ava, asking where she was. Upon learning Ava was at the Metro Court, Portia decided to head there, unaware that her husband, Curtis, was already closing in. The real storm, however, erupted at the Quartermaine mansion. Martin Gray, ever the smooth-talking lawyer, paid Ronnie a visit under the guise of business. He was confident he could manipulate her into selling the family estate to Drew Kane, a deal that benefited his secret alliances. When the two were finally alone, their polite facades vanished. Ronnie snapped at Martin, panicking that someone could discover their clandestine dealings. Martin, unruffled, reminded her that his visit was perfectly legitimate and cloaked in legal necessity. The tension escalated as the conversation took a darker turn. Martin taunted Ronnie, saying she'd still be waiting tables if not for his clever tampering with Monica Quartermaine's will, a shocking admission that revealed how deep his manipulation went. Ronnie, initially hesitant about their corrupt arrangement, had reluctantly agreed to go along with it after meeting the infamously difficult Tracy Quartermaine. But now, with guilt mounting and the situation spinning out of control, she wanted out. Martin, however, wasn't about to let that happen. His smooth voice turned cold as steel as he reminded her that he'd kept his hands clean throughout, leaving her as the only one legally vulnerable. If she backed out now, she'd be the one to take the fall for fraud, not him. The implied threat was unmistakable: comply, or go to prison. Ronnie's defiance faltered under the weight of his warning, and by the time Martin left, her nerves were shattered. Moments later, Michael, Ned, Olivia, and Tracy entered the mansion, unaware of the confrontation that had just taken place. Tracy, keeping up appearances, played the part of the reconciliatory matriarch, suggesting a fresh start for everyone. Ronnie, still rattled but desperate to appear composed, backed up Tracy's sentiment, agreeing that peace was overdue. But when she dropped the bombshell, that she had decided to sell the house, the announcement sent shockwaves through the room. The Quartermaines stared in disbelief, each processing the news differently. Ned and Michael exchanged wary looks, while Tracy's expression remained unreadable, hiding her own suspicions. As the episode closed, the ripple effects of Martin's threat and Carly's manipulations began to spread. Ronnie stood at a crossroads, torn between fear and self-preservation, while Martin quietly celebrated his victory, knowing he held all the leverage. At the same time, Carly's successful push for Valentine's transfer set in motion a new phase of intrigue within the WSB, one that would draw Anna, Jason, and Brennan deeper into a maze of deception and danger. Tuesday's General Hospital episode was a masterclass in layered storytelling, weaving together romance, betrayal, and power plays across multiple fronts. From Portia's guilt-laden tryst to Carly's calculated charm and Martin's cold-blooded coercion, every scene pushed the narrative forward with precision. The episode left viewers on the edge of their seats, anticipating the fallout. Will Ronnie cave to Martin's demands or expose him to save herself? Can Carly maintain her cover before Brennan uncovers the truth? And what hidden secrets lie behind Valentine's transfer, secrets that could forever alter the balance of power in Port Charles? As the pieces shift on the board, one thing is clear: in Port Charles, no secret stays buried for long, and every alliance comes with a price. Martin Gray's chilling threat or Carly Spencer's secretive power play? In true General Hospital fashion, every move set off a chain reaction, one that rippled through Port Charles like an earthquake, shaking old alliances, reigniting rivalries, and testing the limits of loyalty. As the Quartermaines reeled from Ronnie Bard's announcement that she would sell the family mansion, tensions boiled over. Ned Quartermaine, usually the voice of reason, struggled to keep his temper in check. "You're selling our house, the heart of this family, to Drew Kane? Without even consulting us?" His words came sharp, echoing through the parlor. Ronnie, her voice trembling, tried to hold her ground. "It's my decision to make, Ned. I'm the legal heir now, remember? And I think it's time for a clean slate." Tracy's sharp eyes flickered with suspicion. She didn't believe for a second that Ronnie was acting purely on emotion. "A clean slate or a dirty deal?" Tracy asked, folding her arms. "Because you don't strike me as the sentimental type." The room went still. Ronnie's pulse raced, knowing Tracy was sniffing dangerously close to the truth. She forced a nervous laugh. "You can believe whatever you want, Tracy. But I'm done living under the same roof where every corner has a secret." As Olivia tried to defuse the moment with her usual warmth, Michael hung back, observing quietly. He caught something, a flicker of fear in Ronnie's expression, the way her hand trembled slightly when she reached for her drink. Something about her didn't add up, and Michael's instincts told him this sale was about more than real estate. Later that evening, after the family meeting broke apart in frustration, Ronnie stood alone in the mansion's grand hallway. The chandeliers glimmered above, reflecting off the framed portraits of Quartermaine ancestors staring down with cold judgment. For a brief moment, she considered backing out, confessing everything to Michael or even Tracy. But then she remembered Martin's icy words, "You're the one holding the fraudulent deed, Ronnie. If anyone goes to prison, it'll be you." Her hand shook as she poured herself another drink. Fear had turned into a physical weight pressing on her chest. Martin had her cornered, and there was no one she could trust. Across town, Martin Gray returned to his office, his composure cool as ever. To him, this was just another transaction, a chess move executed perfectly. But as he poured himself a scotch, a rare hint of doubt flickered in his eyes. He knew how volatile Ronnie could be when cornered, and he couldn't afford loose ends. Not now, not with Carly Spencer stirring up WSB business on the other side of town. Meanwhile, at the Metro Court, Carly was already 2 steps ahead. After Brennan left her suite, she immediately phoned her silent partner in the scheme, Sonny Corinthos. "Valentine's transfer is in motion," she whispered. "Brennan thinks it was his idea. He doesn't suspect a thing." Sonny's voice was low, cautious. "You're playing a dangerous game, Carly. The WSB doesn't take kindly to manipulation. If Brennan figures out what you're doing—" "He won't," Carly interrupted. "This is the only way to get Valentine somewhere safe, and closer to us. Anna needs him. Jason needs him. And if we can use Brennan's ego to make that happen, then it's worth it." Sonny sighed, knowing there was no stopping her once she'd made up her mind. "Just be careful. You survived too much to lose it all now." Carly's gaze drifted to the skyline outside her window. Port Charles glittered beneath her, beautiful, dangerous, full of secrets. "I'll be fine," she murmured. "But when this blows up, Brennan's going to learn exactly who he's dealing with." Across town at General Hospital, Curtis Ashford arrived looking haggard and restless. His encounter with Isaiah Gannon had left him unsettled. He couldn't shake the feeling that Portia was hiding something, again. When he finally tracked her down in the Metro Court lounge, her expression told him everything. She was startled to see him, guilty before he even asked the first question. "Portia," Curtis began, his voice low but controlled. "Where were you last night?" Portia hesitated, her mind scrambling for an excuse. I was at the cabin. Isaiah wanted to discuss some patient files." Curtis raised an eyebrow. "At a cabin? With wine glasses on the table?" Her breath hitched. "It wasn't like that," she insisted. But her voice cracked. Curtis stepped closer, his pain barely contained. "Don't lie to me again, Portia," he said softly. "I deserve better than that." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You do," she admitted. "You always have." Curtis turned away before she could see the depth of his hurt. "Then maybe it's time we stop pretending." The moment hung heavy between them, the sound of a marriage quietly breaking. At Anna Devane's office.